If you are selling your home, there are some things you want to keep in mind to get ready for the home inspection. You want your home to be shown in the best light possible, and here are some tips to make that happen. Now that your home is under contract, you still want to keep it in show-ready condition for the home inspection. A typical home inspection can be anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. There are a few things that will make that time vary. Some of it is going to be based on your square footage. Your foundation of your home will also be part of it, whether or not you have a crawl space that needs to be fully inspected, your roof, how high is it, the peaks. There are various things that contribute to that, but you do want to plan accordingly and make sure that during this time that you make plans to be outside of the house for that period. You also want to make sure that all of your utilities are on, because if the inspector can't check it, then they can't mark it off the list. So that's going to be your power, your water, if you have gas, all of these need to be on at the time of the inspection. You want to make sure that the inspector has easy access to all of the major components of your house. So this is going to be having access to any attic access doors or hatches. You also want to make sure they can get to the water heater. A lot of times those are going to be in the garage and we'll have stuff around them. Any windows in the house, they need to be able to make sure that they work properly. And then you also want to have access to your heating and air conditioning systems. Something that is newer for home inspections but is becoming more commonplace today is technology in homes. So if you have anything that runs off of a special remote or a gadget and it may not be familiar to somebody who hasn't used it before, you want to make sure that either you leave instructions with your real estate agent or that you leave instructions for the inspector that they can take a look at. These are going to be important items that the inspector is going to want to check out to make sure that they work if they're going to be staying with the house. Some things to think about is some of the fans in bedrooms may run off of a remote, and when the inspector tries to put on the switch, they're not going to come on. So if the remote is not easily accessible, you need to make sure that they know where it's located. Another item that's becoming more common are programmable thermostats. And in many cases, when these are set for certain hours of the day to be at a certain temperature, this function will lock and it can't be changed except for through an app. So you want to make sure that if that's the case for yours, that you go ahead and make sure that it is accessible to the inspector. They're going to need to run both your air conditioning and your heating and to check that it hits the degrees that it needs to in order to function properly in both of these settings. If anything around the house is locked, you want to make sure that you either unlock it or you leave the keys. Many cases this could be a gate for a fence that has a lock on it, and they need to be able to access any areas or sheds if those are being included in the sale. Those need to be unlocked or have the keys left. Something that I run into a lot that a lot of people don't even think about, especially if you're still living in your house, is you want to make sure that you have your dishwasher unloaded as well as your washer and dryer. If these are part of the sale of your house, the inspector is going to check them and make sure that they function properly. So in many cases, you're either going to have these items re-washed because they are going to have to run a cycle. So if you don't unload them, just be prepared to have them be re-washed. A couple of little things just to go around the house and check and make sure that they are new or in working order is you want to go ahead and change out your air filter. A lot of times those can get forgotten about and they look dirty and dingy even though the air conditioning system works perfectly fine. It's always a good idea to put in a new fresh air conditioning filter. You also want to make sure that all of your light bulbs work, because if the inspector can't test it because of a broken bulb, they're going to mark it off on the list that it was not able to be checked or that it was not in working order. And this is going to include both inside and outside lights, especially if you have security lights. And then finally, you want to check things that are going to have batteries. So you want to make sure all the smoke detectors work, or any remotes for any of the gadgets that you have around the house. If you have any little projects that maybe you've been putting off, like replacing the worn weather stripping around the door, or if you have some baseboards that maybe have come loose, those are things that you're going to want to take a few minutes and make sure that those are in the best shape possible, because those are all going to be things that a home inspector is going to look at, and those will be marked down on the inspection report. If you have any pets, you want to make sure that they are either going to be crated for the duration of the inspection, or since you are going to already be out of the house, plan to take them with you, if possible. A home inspection is basically a report card for your house that is going to be presented to the buyer for anything that may need to be looked at, revised, or repaired. Those can be substantial, that could be safety hazards, or things that are minor and cosmetic, but they're all going to be on there. So the fewer things that you have on that inspection report, the better. My name is Michelle Sands with Century 21 Bill Nye Realty. I can be reached at 727-686-1979. You can also find me on social media at Michelle Sands Realtor. If there is any questions that you have or anything that I can do for you, definitely reach out. Talk to you soon.